Tuesday.
Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of A Coffee with Chris, the social media show that helps you create impact. As always, brought to you in association with our charity partners, 𝗖𝗄𝗄𝗲, who help local people affected by cancer, and Game Plan Coffee, Paddy and Scott's special coffee partnership with the High Performance Foundation. Every beautiful bag of this bad boy that you buy makes young people, it puts young people into an incredible place. The High Performance Foundation will fund programs to help young people across the UK develop the mindset and tools to thrive in life, not just survive it. So if you're like me and you are addicted to coffee, then make sure you grab yourself a bag of Game Plan coffee today. I've drunk so much of it today, which I need to because I have a newborn baby. Anyway, swiftly moving on. Proudly can say that this podcast is also sponsored by Oliver Hill of the Hill Coaching Company, Gemma Crane of Mindset HR, and Callum Howard from Limitless Film and Media. Let's welcome today's guest on for round two. Anthony Leung, for those of you that don't know, is a founder video specialist that clarifies your 20-minute pitch so it lands in a 60-second video. This guy came on and is back by popular demand because he just gave so much free actionable advice. I'm delighted to be joined by him today. Anthony, welcome back onto a Coffee with Chris. When you say founder-led content, what's the why behind that? Why should founders, managing directors, C-suite execs, why should they do founder-led content?
Well, I'll tell you straight up, Chris. I think a lot of it has to do how I ended up in this kind of like thesis is that AI has a lot to do with it, right? So when I last came on round one, if you will. I was still kind of really building in a more generalized content. We were talking about video content a lot, but it was still very general. But what I've realized is that with AI, there's such a gap between trust and the actual content, right? Because now AI can, you can fake expertise. You can fake, you can write, I don't know anything about cricket. I could write blogs about cricket. I could tell you about the latest scores. I could tell you the latest players. None of this would be real because I just prompted something, right? And we're flooded with this content constantly now, right? Whether it's the internet or LinkedIn, it doesn't matter. Every corner of it, there's some kind of content. And so what I've realized was that as we get flooded with this, the more we get of this, the more we're actually going to crave something real, something human. And that's where I decided to look at, well, is there still a play to be had with content? Is this still valuable? To me, the answer is yes, right? But then it's not just to put out content out there because there's so much AI slop out there. The question then comes to how and why. Because the how has to be the anti-AI slop. The how has to be something that's real, something that's human, something that there is some sort of personality that you actually have, right? In order for you to kind of build that link between you and the viewer. So that people can trust that the expertise you're saying right now is actually yours. And the why is it comes down to, well, it's trust because expertise is kind of extendable at the moment, right? Because anybody can be an expert in anything. But can I trust that you're going to be the person that is delivering on what you say you're going to deliver? Can I trust that you actually know what you're talking about? Can I trust that you said you have 15 years experience in something that I need, and that expertise actually is going to come into play at some point? That's to me the currency that's at play right now. And that's why I moved into founder-led content and video content, because video is still going to be the place where you can actually show up and actually deliver the expertise by yourself. Look directly in the camera and deliver that. Yes, there are software that fakes these things, but I would also argue that if there was software that clones me, right, I wouldn't want to send clone version of me to go networking because these relationships are too important to me to fake it. And so why would I do that with camera? Because The moment that somebody realizes that I'm doing something that's fake, that trust breaks instantly. And it's so hard to bring it back. I wouldn't want to risk that. So that's what I'm betting on.
Oh, I'm so pleased that you kind of hit our audience with that bombshell there, Anthony, because I was going to say that. What a great way to kick off this conversation. Anthony, the other thing that I'm challenged by in my world, and I'm sure many people in marketing are as well, is it's telling individuals, it's telling business leaders, founders, as you summarize, the importance of getting on camera and what it can bring. But I might maybe switch this question to you. What do businesses miss out on when the founder stays invisible online? Because I still think many are hiding behind the corporate banner, the corporate blanket, and it keeps them warm and cozy because there's no risk. But I don't think they're realizing the reward, Anthony.
There is a huge reward out there, right? There is, again, I think it's amplified by the AI slop that's coming up there. Like companies can sprout out overnight now with with AI, with Lovable, they could just throw a website out there. With Claude, they can just decide there's a gap in the market and just test this stuff. It's the same as like those t-shirt companies that you get on Instagram ads. Sometimes it's like, oh, that shirt looks pretty cool. You click on it and you're like, something's not right. Like something's missing. I don't know what it is, but I don't know if I can trust it. And so you search that company, and you realize they just sprouted out overnight. It's the same thing, right? It's so easy to do stuff because AI is going to enable us to do stuff. But the amount of people I think that are looking for stuff that's created with purpose, stuff that's created by a real person, that solves a real problem that they've experienced themselves. I think that's where the key is for storytelling in the future. Forget the future, it's now. In fact, it's in the past as well. Do you remember Ben and Jerry?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, like we all remember Ben and Jerry because, okay, the ice cream is bang, that's one thing. But they're also a company with actual values. And it's based on these two guys, Ben and Jerry, that actually have human values. And we're invested in that company because of that, right? And so this is nothing new, but it's just amplified because of the state of play that we're in right now.
Yes, yes. And Anthony, I was listening to a podcast this morning. I was just quickly trying to find it on my phone, but I can't find it in time. And it was with a really successful lady who was an accountant. And she was talking about the amount of time it takes to convert people from seeing her on Instagram to using her as an accountant. I think it was something like 18 months, right? So it's quite a long lead to sale time. And it just really highlights that she's in a very challenging, heavily regulated space, but she's a founder, she's on camera, and she's speeding up the process between prospect and client. I just think to myself, like, I wish other founders would take that leap. And speaking of that leap, Anthony, what are the starting steps? What would you suggest to a managing director, a founder, a business leader generally, if they've not done anything, but you're like, right, here are the kind of like the three key things perhaps to just start on this journey? What would you recommend?
Oh, so the first thing is grab this thing. Everyone's got a phone, right? Everyone's got a phone, and it's so powerful. It's basically like a little mini studio in your pocket nowadays, right? So just grab it, and I would say instead of thinking about, hey, what do I need to do? What do I need to say to sound super intelligent for work? I would say let's start with something that you really care about. So if you care about football, talk about football. If you care about professional wrestling, I always bring up professional wrestling. I don't know why. I'm on the downturn of that now, but just think about some crochet. It doesn't matter. Think about something that you really care about and passionate about, and talk into the camera. Practice talking to the camera with it, and then play it back, right? Because what you'll realize is that when you talk about something you're really passionate about, you're going to sound different. You're not going to sound like that LinkedIn version of you that everyone's a bit like allergic to. Like, oh, I'm thrilled to announce. No, you're not thrilled. There's nothing thrilling about this. But so look back and see yourself, and you're passionate about something. That's the goal. That's the goal of you trying. Can you take that same presence and energy and presentation and transfer that into work and transfer that into your expertise? I think that's the goal for me, is that it's always Not enough to just show up and say some 5 bullet points. You got to be convincing. You've got to be that person that someone goes, well, I believe what they say because of how they said it and how they made me feel.
Yes.
And I think that's a critical first step for a lot of leaders who have not done this yet, because it's scary. But it's less scary when you're talking about your kids or you don't have to publish any of the stuff. You just have to play it
Yeah.
for yourself so that you can see where the benchmark is.
And brilliant stuff, Anthony. And again, to kind of further that, I mean, I like that it's a bit corny. I like the phrase "passion is paramount," right? If you're rocking up on camera and you're not passionate about what you're talking about, it will come through that way. And you're so right. People don't want to see that watered down LinkedIn version of themselves on camera, where it's just corporate spiel, etc. You're really good at what you do. You're so knowledgeable. Convey that passion on camera, because people want to see that individuality. And again, to use that AI thing, people are getting bored of that now. I'm quite conscious of that, but there is so much slop about, and it's the sea of sameness, isn't it, Anthony? And we're all just talking heads that are nodding and saying the same things. We are delighted to say that. I'm totally with you on all that, Anthony. So what I would ask then, Anthony, is what content, founder-led content specifically, that builds trust fast and authentically versus content that performs? What's the kind of the differentiation with that?
I mean, I think the question is, what's the definition of performance, right? Because is it getting views? Is it getting likes? I think that is secondary to, let's say, performance of getting, let's say a founder is looking for investment, which, one of my clients have actually, one of our videos have helped do that for them. That's performance. That's like, we just need one conversion, right? But I think the answer to both is, well, it's clarity of your story, and it's also, let's put it this way. Like, so if you look at my career, I've done social media for guys like Save the Children, Rackspace, Just Eat, 𝗵𝗵𝗶𝗶𝗵, and they're all over the place, right? But ultimately, what it comes down to is there a story to tell? My job as a social media lead or head of social media at the time is to figure out what that story is, and then understand the rules of storytelling on all the platforms that are happening right now, right? Right now, what happens to be is that it's TikTok, it's LinkedIn, right? It's YouTube. In fact, all platforms right now have a very similar way of storytelling for video, which is, again, why I moved out of that space, because you can create one video and you can throw it onto LinkedIn, you can throw it onto TikTok. I've got a client who threw it onto Facebook and it works. And throw it to wherever people are and it'll communicate to them, right? Chris, my ADHD has just hit me. What were we talking about?
No, mate. That's all absolute gold. We were talking about the content that builds trust versus performs. You've answered that question brilliantly.
Okay, perfect.
And by the way, kudos to you for opening up about that. And we had a storytelling specialist on the podcast called James Hale from 𝗖𝗵𝗿𝗶𝘀. Big up, James. Amazing episode. And I think, Anthony, what you're talking about and what he's speaking about there, and kind of colliding those two worlds together, is really impactful. I think most people in the world of business are creating really boring, really basic video where they're just talking about their suite of services, the features and benefits, but they're not storytelling. They're not talking about how they created the business, why they do business in this way, what their people do within the business, and how they got to where they got to today. And that's the stuff that's the good stuff that people seem to not be doing, Anthony. I mean, I'd be interested to get your thoughts. I mean, certainly from the businesses that I come across, if I say to them, "Oh, have you ever told your business story on camera?" They go, no.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. I also want to put the blame on this, not to ourselves, but how we were taught, how we were conditioned. It's like, oh, you need to talk about the brand first, and here are the USPs and blah, blah, blah. And every time you say something, you make sure the logo is seen and all stuff. We've been conditioned to do that. But what I'm seeing is that if you can tell your story and find the point where you relate to the audience the most, And that's where you start the story. That makes a massive difference. That first line, that first second of any content is the most important thing. I spend 4 hours on a single line just to make sure it gets right. Because I will write, the rest of it will come easily, right? It's the first line. That takes so much time. I have AI and it helps me. Even with that help, it takes me half a day to get it right sometimes.
Anthony, I must jump onto this. We've had a live question from Jack Eddy, and I'd love for you to get back to him as an expert opportunity. So forgive me as a staff question. How do you develop content? We'll obviously use videos in this perspective. In my case, written proposals, polished content that has cross-cultural appeal and impact. For example, if you produce something that is aimed at Asia, how do you ensure it reaches Asia? So specifically with video content, Anthony, I'd be fascinated to get your kind of your advice, your insights on this.
Well, I think that I'll take some notes from the Prime Minister of Canada. So he's got a multilingual problem as well, right? But what he does is that he produces video, one version in English and one version in French, right? And it's the same video, but you're going to let the algorithm do its work. It's going to find the French speakers and find the English speakers, and that content will get to them. I would say don't make it so generic. Don't make it like, one video for like the entire world. There's like 6 like translations in the bottom. If I've learned anything from my time at Just Eat, is that if you're going to tell a joke about Star Trek or Batman or anything nerdy, geeky, or football, you've got to go really hard into the subject, right? You can't just go, LOL, football, they kicked the ball into the goal. You've got to go, this player sucked. We should have traded him, right? When you get specific, that's when the audience that wants to hear it is actually going to respect it. If you get too generic, they're like, you just pull that out of your hat. The same for content is that if you can get more specific, the better. And if you want your content to actually hit in Asia, make sure you make references, make sure the language is there, but really make it for them. And do content for specific areas. Don't just make it generic.
I love that advice, Anthony. I think that's golden. And Jack, thank you so much for sending in that question. It's really interesting, Jack, because certainly on Instagram, they're now bringing in functionality within the platform where it will automatically translate you, which is the most insane, incredible development in my opinion. And it means that the opportunity to get worldwide is more impactful than before. However, what Anthony said there, Jack, is the absolute rocket fuel. You need to niche it down. You need to be ultra specific, make cultural references, and actually create something bespoke for that region. If you truly want to get into that region, hey, you could also work with an agency perhaps that maybe gets you there. Anthony, just to bring this to life, as always, we can talk about all of the theory, all of the ifs, buts, maybes, hows, whys. Could you share an example of some founder video content that you've created for someone where they've gone from perhaps even not doing anything to they're on camera now, they're executing with your specialist advice, and now they're somewhere more impactful?
Yeah, I'd love to tell you about the story about my client in 𝘄𝗶𝘁𝗵𝗲. Cheers, Jack. Glad that was helpful. But my client in 𝘄𝗶𝘁𝗵𝗲, we connected over food because that's what happens with me. We were both working late in co-working space. I offered her a snack and we became friends. That's what happens. But then she saw me on LinkedIn and she goes, "Oh, I think we can work together. I'd like to do something with you." I'm like, "Well, where do we even start?" She then sends me a video of her pitch that was 20 minutes long. I go, "I can work with that. I know what's going on." So from that 20-minute video, that's where I brought it down to a short video. And I scripted it for her. And my entire process is home cooked in a way that when I first did my first video, like short video about 1,000 years ago, I had hair back then. But I did it, and it took me 3 hours to do a 30-second video. And I was sweating and I hated everything, but I was like, I gotta do this. Every time I'm doing a video, I'm remembering that guy, because everything I do now is to alleviate any pressure, anything that makes you not want to be yourself in front of the camera. So the first thing I did with my 𝘄𝗶𝘁𝗵𝗲 client, took that 20-minute video and turned it into a short script. Right? We then went back and forth on the script. I write in her tone of voice, and I do that with every client because every person is different. If you say, hey, this is the right path, I don't say it this way, great. Tell me how you would say it. Nothing is off the bounds. You tell me how you say it. And then we sign that off. We shoot the video. You don't have to remember anything. My clients never have to remember a single line because that's the second thing that causes people to clamp up. It's like, oh, what's my line? Oh, what's my next line? We're not actors. Even actors get like 1,000 takes, right? So why are we forcing ourselves to do a single take? It's just ridiculous. So the way I developed it is that there are short lines that I feed it to my clients, right? We already know where we're going. There's a map already where we're going with this content. Now you just have to focus on being yourself, right? And I'm there to help direct your energy so it goes up and down. In my head, I'm piecing it together. How it's going to come together. I'm going to help direct you with that. But it's always going to be you. It's always going to be how you want to present yourself. And then when I've got all those pieces, I take it back into my editing suite, and it becomes little puzzle pieces I put together into video. And because they're puzzle pieces, I can take the ending, which might actually be a better beginning, which we didn't realize when we wrote it. But after we shot it, it's like, that's great, that's cool. Or there's a human moment that we need to include in there. How do we include it into that? A laugh or something that, again, that is more human. That's where the editing comes in. And so I think 80% of the work is actually in writing and in editing. 20% is recording. And we did that video, and man, I could not have hoped for a better result. Or 13,500 organic impressions on LinkedIn. She then, that video has helped her open doors to get her investment. She is incredibly well known and respected in her space right now. At one point known as the LinkedIn video queen after one video, and I think that's incredible. And from that point, we've continued working together, right? I'm helping her now to basically as a content consultant, marketing consultant, to understand where her founder journey is, right? Where are the milestones? Where are the moments that are invigorating for her viewers, right? And that comes in different content. That could be images, that could be written content, but also video content. Because what I'm realizing is that with founders especially, there's so much story to tell. But actually with a video, it builds those kind of moments of trust that seeps into all your other content. While it'd be great if I could do 1,000 videos for you, chances are you're really busy. You can't do that. And so this, I think, does the job as well. And through that, she's now, she had like prospects. I didn't look the radio, who she had no connections with. But through those videos, it's opened those doors, and she's landed clients with other videos that we've done. And it's like, this is amazing. This is what I want. I want everybody to win, but the good guys to win. Because the good guys are here. We're here with solutions, with problems that we see. And we got to cut through all this noise to get to the right people, and that's what I want. That's what I really want.
This is real stuff, right? And it works. Thank you for sharing that story. I'm hoping it connects with people to kind of ignite them into committing to do this. I'm really now thinking about the scripting element as well, Anthony. I must admit, I tend to ad lib most stuff. Just because of my confidence on camera and my passion and knowledge for what I do. But actually, come to think of it, if I'm starting to script in things, it's going to grab attention more. It's going to keep people in the journey. It's going to keep people watching for longer, etc. So I love your insights around that. Anthony, we've shared all the stuff that's good and the why and what works. What are the kind of the mistakes, the icks, the red flags that founders should avoid when it comes to their video content? You have already mentioned, of course, AI and saying that you're delighted, thrilled, and all that stuff. But what are the other mistakes that founders are making with their video content?
I think it's the same mistake as a lot of people when we first started LinkedIn, right? When we're doing content for business, we always think that we've got to, I call it top-down positions, right? Where you're like you've got to be on a pedestal, and you've got to be a preacher, and you've got to have all the answers. Here's 5 ways to make your life better, and every one of these will work. When in actuality, the best content I've created for my clients has always been on the level with your viewers, right? If you're one of the guys, if you're one of the people that you're seeing the same problems as they are because you're going through them, and this is how you're solving them, and that relatability is so important. And I think that most people forget that. I don't know if they forget or just don't know it, but that's been the key element to the content that I help create. Again, the very first line, if you could connect with them on that very first line on some kind of emotional level or some kind of, it's not just, it has to go beyond factual, because factual is just transactional. Um, and if you can hit that emotional line, man, we're off to a great start. Um, yeah, yeah, that's my spiel.
No, Anthony. That's gold, absolutely. And there are tons of mistakes that founders are making, and I'm sure that you can steer them away from that bad video content. Anthony, speaking of that, where can people work with you? Where can people find you, connect with you, do business with you?
Hey, find me on LinkedIn. You'll be surprised I'm on there. My name's Anthony Leung, Leung, and my company's name is Being Right Hook, right being WRITE. It's the love chat between my love of puns and my love of violence. I'm really bad at violence, so maybe I should reconsider that. But yeah, it started off as a copywriting business, and now it's a video business. And I kept the name because A, it's a hell of a name, and B, I still do. In fact, I think I do more writing now than I ever did when I was copywriting.
I
And so that name stays because good content always starts with good writing.
I I'm not just saying this, Anthony. I think it's in definitely in my top 5 business names of all time. I just love it. I always know you because of your business name. It's an incredible one. And thank you so much for coming on this episode of A Coffee with Chris. Anthony, round 2 was even better than round 1. Thank you so much.
I hope we go 12 rounds with this, buddy.
And thank you so much to everyone that's watching live, watching back, listening back. If you've got any questions on founder-led video content, then why not add a comment into the comment section? I'm sure Anthony would do you a good service and get back to you with some help and support. Thank you once again for tuning in to Coffee with Chris, and I'll see you this time next week for